Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of Articulating with David Barnett. My name is Sharon Loker, and today we are going to discuss something very near and dear to David's heart and mine as well, and that is Artist Resource Transnational, which is a nonprofit organization started by David to protect artists' legacies while also sharing their artworks on a global scale. So, to start our podcast today, David, will you please explain to our listeners the idea behind A.R.T.?
Yeah, the basics of it is based on the 57 years that I've been in the art business, where artists in general are, of course, very creative. They're right-brained, and the logical skill level sometimes gets lost along the wayside.
That's analytical. Very true. Yes.
Yeah, and so the organization is really based on helping artists to preserve their legacies, as Sharon said. Mm-hmm. And if we can get the organization going on a global basis to help create world peace in some small way through the exchange of visual culture. So in other words, because there's so many, as we all know, people that are killing each other over differences in religious beliefs or ideological thinking. So if people can hopefully learn to appreciate one another's culture and artwork, maybe there's some hope there for people to appreciate one another and get along.
That's really a beautiful sentiment, and I like the idea of art being this method of uniting different cultures and allowing us to kind of see our similarities while also appreciating and learning about our differences.
Yes.
I think that's very important.
Yeah. One of the other aspects of the mission for A.R.T., in addition to the things that we talked about already, if as an artist you donate your work to a nonprofit charity, the Internal Revenue Service only allows you to deduct your cost of materials. So in terms of your intellectual property, your creativity is valued by the IRS at zero. Now, when you pass away, depending on your tax situation, then the IRS will value your works at fair market value. The IRS wants their cake and eat it too, It's completely unfair. So now why is that? Well, 90% of the lobbyists in Washington, D.C., are there for special interest groups, mm-hmm. and that have a lot of money that get the legislature to change the laws in their favor. With the art industry, it's not lucrative enough, and there's not enough financial support to get these laws changed in Washington. So one of the missions that we want to accomplish here is to get that law changed so that when artists donate themselves directly, that they can get the fair market value of their artwork, mm-hmm. not just the cost of materials.
Which, again, is also very important because art isn't just about the amount of money you spent on the materials, but there's the time, there's the creativity. I mean, most artists mm-hmm. have been trained extensively for years, yeah. Even the ones that, are outsider artists that have not necessarily been educated or gone to school, they still have a lot of innate talent, and that's, a lot of time is spent in mm-hmm. the creating of the artwork itself.
Yeah. The artist's vision, the artist's intellectual property,
absolutely.
If you will, needs to be acknowledged, and the artists need to get credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
How did you originally conceive of this idea? Like, what kind of got the ball rolling?
Well, if you go back to the beginning of the gallery in 1966, when I was promoting the young graduate students' artworks, I did that for 3 years, and I realized that we weren't going to survive, Mm-hmm. And I realized very early on that artists have the talent and the creativity to express their visions, but from a business standpoint, they really don't have the knowledge or ability to do that. They're quite naive. It became evident very, very early and continued over the last 57 years, that this was something that needed to be fixed, basically. And now that I'm 78 years old, you just never know, how much time you have left here. I don't want everything I've done over the last 57 years to disappear. And so this is the next chapter, so to speak, is to get A.R.T. going.
Yeah,
on
it's
a
a
global
part
basis.
of your legacy as well,
Right.
not just that of the artists involved, but
Right.
part of the legacy of the gallery. And
Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't really thought of this before until you started sharing the story of kind of how it began. You're an artist yourself, and then, as all of you listeners know, David is also, the gallery owner and director, and has been doing this for 57 years. So you're kind of in this unique position where you've had your foot in both worlds, so to speak. You know what it's like to be in the shoes of the artist and be the creator, but you also know what it's like to be the business owner and dealing with the day-to-day operations and what do we need to do to keep this going and to keep it successful. I think it's really a very cool idea and a very thoughtful one, and just smart. To me, it makes sense.
Thank you.
Why not?
Appreciate it. So now we just need everybody's support
Yes. Yes,
to make it happen.
that's right. Come and support the arts.
Which brings up a very interesting artist by the name of David Whitburn, who was one of the earliest artists for me to be exhibiting in the gallery, I believe 1969. And we have 4 examples of his works to show you today. David Whitburn, he's basically blind at this point. He's in his mid-80s. And so he has entrusted me as the only gallery in his entire life that he trusts. And so he has gifted to me personally his entire life's work, about 150 artworks.
Yes.
And I am in turn going to donate them to A.R.T. We'd like to share with you a few of his pieces.
Yeah, some of his wonderful pieces. We actually have 2 of his oil paintings behind us here. This larger one behind me, this is Symphony Number 1, Miracoti. And one other thing about David Whitburn, and it's wonderful if you're when we were looking through his works and going through the backs of them, he was meticulous about dating everything, titling it, signing it. And so, especially in a piece like this, he worked on it off and on throughout the 80s and 90s. So he literally has all the dates that he worked on this specific painting written on the stretcher bars behind the work itself. That in itself is just, to me, so fascinating to see. I've never seen anything like this personally. It's this kind of wonderful mix of surrealism and a little bit of magical realism, and then he's got this kind of cool, sci-fi. Looks like the cover of a paperback sci-fi novel from like the 60s or 70s. It's just got that great vibe.
Yeah, and they have a beautiful texture, almost like we're on the moon.
Yes. Yeah, there is a lot of texture in his work and a lot of depth in it too. So you kind of get this like non-traditional, futuristic sci-fi landscape.
Yeah, one of his favorite masters was the famous French artist Yves Tanguy, and David
I could see that.
Was very much influenced by Tanguy's work.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
So when I was up in Wapaka picking up his pieces, and we were talking about Tanguy and the influence, and I mentioned to Dave that I had an original Tanguy etching signed by Tanguy, and he was amazed. Yeah, he was
I'm
quite
sure
excited
he was excited
to hear about that. Yeah.
The other painting we have over here behind David, this is Double Eclipse. This dates from 1976 to 1977. I think this is a great example of that Tanguy influence. Again, that kind of weird sci-fi, mythological, just kind of new agey landscape with these really interesting, surrealistic, organic shapes. And again, some examples of the texture as well.
Dali-esque too.
Yeah, it is very Dali-esque as well. Yeah, it is. Definitely surrealism. Just kind of taken to this whole new level. And like I said, as an art historian, I've seen a lot of different artworks, and this is just, to me, something completely new and fascinating. It's really been, for all of us, a joy to be able to experience his life's work.
Another piece here.
Ah, yes. There's another piece we have here. Is this one of the colored pencil?
Colored pencil drawings.
Yeah. Sea Gems, it is called, dating from 1965. Yeah. And that's beautiful. It's just a beautiful abstract. And again, those organic shapes, the layering of them on top of one another.
It's very lyrical, and no one knows this, but he has thousands and thousands of musical discs and CDs and things, and so you can see the influence of music in his work here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it does have that movement and that sense of sound and vibration and musicality and
the movement.
Yeah, this is personally one of my favorites.
The artist did request us to make prints from the paintings, and we will be selling those as a fundraiser to help support A.R.T.
Wonderful. We've got one more here.
And, this was actually has the old David Barnett Gallery label on it when we first had his exhibition back in 1969.
Yes, this is Dreamscape 2.
You can see the old
the old gallery label right here from back at the Wisconsin Avenue days.
Yeah.
And this one, again, it's got that
almost like a 1930s Kandinsky organic shapes and things like that.
Yeah, this little piece in the center.
Almost biomorphic.
Yeah.
If you will. Yeah.
And I just realized this little lone figure over here in the corner, which kind of again adds to that surrealism.
Almost like a Magritte.
I was just going to say that figure does remind me of Rene Magritte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another important surrealist that influenced him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really
really
a cool piece. And this one dates from 1963.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my last question for you about A.R.T. really has to do with why you feel the visual exchange of cultures are so important, just in general.
Mm-hmm. I think that the way the world is today, it's really important that everyone gets to share each other's cultures, and it has that experience, and as I said before, to help, if we can, in some small way, to help create world peace, if we can, through the exchange of visual culture, and have David Whitburn is, of course, the first artist, but they'll, over time there's going to be probably tens of thousands of artists, even more potentially, that will constantly be exhibited all over the world in these exchange exhibitions.
That'll allow people, as we said, globally, to be able to see artwork of all different movements and styles and mediums, sizes, shapes, hopefully to be able to just enjoy them and appreciate them.
Because we don't want these artists' legacies to go into the dumpster, which some artists have actually told me that's where they're going to put their works when they pass away.
Yes, which is so heartbreaking to even consider.
And to be stored away in someone's basement and never see the light of day doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah.
So to preserve these artists' legacies and keep their reputations going, they really need to be exhibited constantly. And so that's our goal, and we hope that everybody who's interested in the same ideas and the same cultural benefits to society will support this.
Absolutely. And like I said, personally, I think to me this is a fantastic idea. It just makes sense. By sharing artworks created by artists of various nationalities, ethnicities, and socioeconomic backgrounds, viewers are being exposed to something both new and perhaps something familiar as well. Educating the public, conveying the importance of art, and making it accessible to everyone is so important just in general. I find when I speak to people about my profession, especially with individuals outside of the art community, most of the time I discover that people are intimidated by art. I think there's this kind of pervasive feeling that if they don't possess some sort of artistic background or knowledge, they will be perceived as ignorant or uneducated. The reality of it is art is for everyone and should be for everyone, and available to all of us. Personally, I love it when somebody is willing to ask any question about an artwork, here in the gallery or just in general, or they find something meaningful within an artwork that they see here. So I believe the ideas David has that are motivating A.R.T. will only foster this interest and this curiosity. So by breaking down those barriers between cultures and allowing us to see the likenesses, we will hopefully at the same time glean something insightful and educational from our differences. And speaking of art and the public, we will be hosting Night at the Gallery here at the David Barnett Gallery on Thursday, July 11th from 5 to 7 p.m. Anyone who makes the suggested $10 donation that evening will have the very rare and exciting opportunity to take a tour of the gallery's beautiful rooftop deck, which offers an amazing 365-degree view of the city of Milwaukee. You will also receive a complimentary glass of wine as well. So don't forget to mark your calendars, folks, so you can enjoy an evening of art while supporting a great cause. So I think this wraps up our 8th episode of Articulating with David Barnett. As always, I am Sharon Loker. Thank you for listening, watching, and supporting us.
I'm David Barnett. Thanks for listening and viewing, and we hope to see you in the gallery soon.
Bye.